This is the only way.
No, please don't.
The gun was still warm when he kissed her. Nia hadn't seen him pull the trigger. She'd been too busy trying not to hyperventilate in the corner of the warehouse while three men in expensive suits discussed where to dump the problem. But she'd heard it. The sharp crack that made her ears ring. The heavy thud of a body hitting concrete. And then he was there, blood spattered across his white shirt, his hand cupping her jaw with a gentleness that contradicted everything she'd just witnessed, his lips finding hers with a hunger that tasted like violence and desperation, and something she couldn't name. "I'm sorry," he whispered against her mouth, his accent thicker now, rawer. "I'm so sorry you had to see that." She should have been terrified, should have been screaming, running, calling the police. Instead, she kissed him back. This is the story of how Nia Abeni fell in love with a man she thought drove cars for a living right, up until the moment she realized he drove an entire criminal empire. If you're already hooked, trust me, you haven't seen anything yet. This story has more twists than Seoul's back alleys, and by the end, you'll question everything you think you know about love and loyalty. Keep watching. And drop a comment telling me the exact moment you knew this was going to end in chaos. Nia Abeni had 3 rules for surviving as a black woman in corporate Seoul. Rule 1, never let them see you sweat. Rule 2, never trust a man who smiles too easily. Rule 3, never, under any circumstances, flirt with the help. She demolished Rule 3 at exactly 11:47 p.m. on a rain-soaked Tuesday in Gangnam. The corporate gala had been 7 hours of performative networking hell. Her boss, Richard Park, a silver-haired executive who introduced her as our diversity initiative, with the kind of smile that made her fantasize about assault charges, had finally released her from schmoozing duty. Nia stood outside the Grand Hyatt, her black Valentino gown clinging to curves she'd earned through Pilates, and sheer stubbornness, trying to convince her phone to order a ride that wouldn't cost a week's salary. That's when she saw him. Leaning against a sleek black Mercedes S-Class, arms crossed, was 6 feet of walking trouble wrapped in a tailored suit. Mid-30s, Korean, with the kind of face that belonged in cologne ads, sharp jawline, full lips, dark eyes that seemed to catalog everything in a single glance. His black hair was styled with precision, slightly longer on top, and he wore his suit like armor. He was staring directly at her. Nia's champagne-soaked brain made an executive decision. "Excuse me," she called out, her heels clicking across wet pavement as she approached. "You work for the hotel?" One dark eyebrow lifted fractionally. His voice, when it came, was deep and accented, wrapping around English words like a caress. "Do I?" "Oh, this one's trouble," her instincts warned. The funkind. She ignored them. "Well, you're gorgeous. You're standing next to a car that costs more than my student loans. And you're giving off serious I'm paid to be here energy. So either you're a driver, or you're a really well-dressed car thief." The corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile. "And if I'm the latter? Then I'm calling the cops. But if you're the former..." She pulled her valet ticket from her clutch with a flourish. "I need my car. Black Audi A6. And I'll tip generously if you don't judge the fact that I'm absolutely not sober enough to drive it." He studied her for a long moment, his gaze traveling from her face down to her heels and back up in a way that should have been offensive, but instead felt like being undressed by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Then he took the ticket. "Wait here, Miss Abeni. Nia Abeni. And you are?" "Min." He pocketed the ticket. "Just Min." Just Min walked away with the kind of controlled grace that suggested either military training or years of professional athletics. Nia watched him go, admiring the view, before it occurred to her that she'd just been incredibly inappropriate with hotel staff. Mom would be so disappointed. Dad would be proud. 5 minutes later, her Audi pulled up to the curb, but instead of getting out, Min leaned across and opened the passenger door from inside. "Get in." Nia blinked. "I'm sorry?" "You said you're not sober enough to drive." Those dark eyes met hers, unreadable. So I'll drive you. That's not how valet service works. Consider it overtime. There was something in the way he said it calm, authoritative, like he was used to people obeying without question that sent heat pooling low in her belly. She should have said no. Should have called a rideshare like a responsible adult who didn't make questionable decisions at midnight. Instead, she slid into the passenger seat. The car smelled like her perfumed Tom Ford Black Orchid and something else. Something masculine and dark, like cedar and gunpowder, though she wouldn't recognize that second scent until much, much later. Min pulled into Seoul's late-night traffic with the ease of someone who knew these streets like his own heartbeat. The silence stretched between them, charged and expectant. So, Nia said, because she'd never met an awkward silence she couldn't destroy with conversation. Do you always chauffeur drunk American lawyers around at midnight? Or am I special? His eyes flicked to her. You're a lawyer? Senior associate. International M&A. I'm in Seoul for 6 months closing a deal for a tech conglomerate. She shifted in her seat, tucking one leg under her. The slit in her gown fell open, exposing her thigh. She didn't miss how his gaze dropped for a fraction of a second before returning to the road. Your turn. What's your story, just Min? It's complicated. I love complicated. I literally negotiate billion-dollar mergers for a living. I'm sure you do. The way he said it low, almost intimate, made her skin prickle with awareness. They drove in silence for a while, the city lights streaking past like neon stars. Her apartment was in Gangnam, a sleek high-rise that screamed I make too much money to pretend otherwise. But as they got closer, Nia found herself not wanting the night to end. Pull over, she said suddenly. Min's hands tightened fractionally on the steering wheel. What? There's a Pojangmasha street food tent right there. She pointed to a small orange tent glowing on the corner. I'm starving, and you look like you could use a drink that doesn't come with a corporate price tag. You want me to stop for street food. I want us to stop for street food. Unless you have somewhere better to be at midnight on a Tuesday. For a moment, she thought he'd refuse. His jaw worked like he was having an internal debate. Then, inexplicably, he pulled the Audi to the curb. The tent was cramped, plastic-covered, filled with the smell of grilled meat and kimchi. They squeezed onto a bench seat, their thighs pressing together in the limited space. The heat from his body radiated through the thin fabric of her gown. Nia ordered in broken Korean, "Titiok baki lang saju juseo," and the ajuma running the tent beamed at her before turning to Min and unleashing a rapid-fire stream of Korean. His response was quiet but carried a weight that made the ajuma's eyes widen. She actually bowed before scurrying off. Nia's eyes narrowed. What did you just say to her? I told her we'd take her best. In a voice that made her look at you like you're a mob boss? His smile was enigmatic. Maybe I tip well. They ate spicy rice cakes and fried chicken, washing it down with soju that burned pleasantly on the way down. Nia found herself laughing, actually laughing for the first time in weeks. Min was funny in a dry, unexpected way, deflecting her probing questions with responses that revealed nothing and everything at once. Okay, real talk, she said, pouring them both another shot. The alcohol was making her brave. Or stupid. The line was blurry. What's a guy who looks like you doing working as a driver? You've got that whole I could buy this hotel energy going on. Maybe I like driving. Bullshit. She leaned closer, close enough to smell his cologne expensive, with notes of bergamot and something darker. You're too commanding, too aware of every exit, every person who walks past. You've checked your phone 3 times, and each time, your whole body language changed. So either you're a driver with a really intense side hustle, or... His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and something shifted in his expression, a hardening, a cooling, like watching water freeze in real time. I have to go, he said abruptly, standing. Nia grabbed his wrist. Wait. Did I say something wrong? For a moment, he stared down at where her fingers wrapped around his wrist. Then his free hand came up, cupping her jaw with a gentleness that contradicted the tension radiating through him. No, he said softly. You said everything right. That's the problem. Before she could process that, he was pulling out his wallet, a sleek black leather thing that probably cost more than her rent, and dropping enough bills on the table to buy the entire tent. The driver will take you home, he said. What driver? You're the... A black SUV pulled up to the curb, and a man in a suit got out. He bowed to Min, actually bowed, like Min was royalty, and said something in Korean. Min responded without taking his eyes off Nia. Then he leaned down, his lips brushing her ear, sending shivers cascading down her spine. I'll see you again, Nia Abeni. It wasn't a question. It was a promise. Try not to get into too much trouble before I do. Then he was gone, sliding into the back of the SUV that disappeared into Seoul's neon-lit chaos. Nia sat there, tipsy and confused, while the driver from the SUV waited patiently by her Audi. What the hell just happened? She muttered. The driver, a young Korean man with a scar across his eyebrow, smiled apologetically. Boss had urgent business. I'll make sure you get home safely, Miss Abeni. Boss? Her brain snagged on the word. I thought he was a driver? The man's smile faltered. Yes, driver. Of course. Please, this way. Nia woke up the next morning with a mild hangover and a severe case of curiosity. She'd tried to brush off the weird ending to her night. Maybe Min was some kind of high-end chauffeur with wealthy clients. Maybe boss was just a cultural thing she didn't understand. Maybe she was overthinking because a criminally attractive man had touched her face like she was something precious before disappearing into the night like Batman. Her best friend and colleague, Zara Kim, a Korean-American attorney who'd been assigned as her cultural liaison, listened to the story over coffee in their shared office. Girl, Zara set down her latte with the kind of precision that suggested she was mentally drafting legal arguments. Red flags everywhere. Red flags can be fun, Nia countered. Red flags can get you killed. This is Seoul, not a romance novel. You don't know anything about this man except he's hot, mysterious, and has people who call him boss. You forgot pays for things with cash and has a jaw that could cut glass. Zara threw a pen at her. I'm serious, Nia. What if he's involved in something illegal? Then I'll use my law degree to defend him? That's not funny. But Nia couldn't stop thinking about him. The way he'd looked at her. The controlled power in every movement. The gentle touch that contrasted with the steel underneath. That afternoon, she did something monumentally stupid. She Googled him. Min Korean driver Seoul yielded nothing useful. Min Korean businessmen gave her about 1 million results. She tried searching the hotel, calling the valet service, even checking the car registration database she technically shouldn't have access to, but did because lawyers had ways. Nothing. It was like just Min didn't exist, which made her want to find him even more. The universe, because it had a sick sense of humor, delivered him to her doorstep 3 days later. Nia was leaving her building for a morning run, leggings, sports bra, hair tied up in a puff when she nearly collided with someone standing in her lobby. Min. Same perfectly tailored suit, different color, charcoal gray today, with a black shirt underneath. He looked like he'd stepped out of a business meeting. Or a heist movie. The line was blurry. You, she breathed. Me, he agreed, his eyes traveling over her workout attire in a way that made her suddenly aware of how much skin she was showing. How did you mentioned you lived in Gangnam. This is the only building in a 3-block radius that matches your aesthetic. His lips quirked. And I may have checked with the doorman. That's borderline stalking. It is, he agreed pleasantly. Are you going to call the police? Or are you going to have coffee with me? Nia should have said police. Should have demanded answers about who he really was, why his driver called him boss, why he'd vanished like smoke. Instead, she heard herself say, "Give me 10 minutes to change." They ended up at a quiet cafe in Bakshan, a traditional Hanok village nestled between skyscrapers. Min ordered in Korean something that made the barista's eyes widen before she nodded rapidly, and they settled into a corner table with a view of tile-roofed houses. "Okay," Nia said, wrapping her hands around a latte that was definitely too fancy to be on any normal menu. "Ground rules. You can't just disappear and reappear in my life without explanation. I'm a lawyer. I deal in facts, contracts, and transparent communication. What if I prefer mystery?" "Then you're dating the wrong woman." Something flickered in his expression. "Is that what we're doing? Dating?" The question hung between them, loaded with possibility. Nia leaned back, studying him. "I don't know what we're doing, just Min. But I know I can't stop thinking about you, which is extremely inconvenient because I have a massive deal closing in 2 weeks, and I need to focus. Then maybe you should forget about me." "Should I?" "Probably." "That's not very convincing." Min set down his coffee cup with deliberate care. "Nia, I'm not what you think I am. My life is complicated in ways that everyone's life is complicated. I've got student loans, a mother who calls me weekly to ask when I'm getting married, and a boss who keeps accidentally touching my shoulder during meetings. Complication doesn't scare me. It should." His voice dropped, taking on an edge that made her pulse quicken. "I'm not a good man. Let me be the judge of that." They stared at each other across the table, the air between them crackling with unspoken things. Nia was acutely aware of his hands' strong, scarred knuckles, the kind that suggested he knew how to fight, and the way his gaze kept dropping to her lips. "One date," she said finally. "A real one. You pick the place, I pick the terms." "What terms?" "Honesty. For one night, you answer my questions truthfully. And in exchange," she smiled slowly, "I'll answer yours." Min studied her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone, typed something, and showed her the screen. "Tomorrow night. Ba PM. Dress for dancing." "Deal," Nia said, her heart racing. She had no idea she'd just made a deal with the devil. The address Min texted her led to a building in Itaewon that looked like an abandoned warehouse from the outside. Nia stood on the rain-slicked street in a blood-red dress that hugged every curve, wondering if she was about to be murdered. Then the door opened, and music spilled out low, sensual, jazz with a modern edge. A hostess in elegant black gestured her inside. The interior was stunning. Exposed brick walls, low lighting, a live band playing on a small stage. Round tables surrounded a dance floor where couples moved in close embrace. It was intimate, exclusive, and definitely not listed on any tourism website. Min was waiting at a corner table, and the sight of him made her breath catch. Black suit, black shirt, no tie. His hair was styled back, revealing the sharp planes of his face. When he stood to greet her, his eyes traveled over her dress with an intensity that felt like a physical touch. "You're stunning," he said simply. "You're not so bad yourself." She slid into the seat across from him, accepting the glass of wine he poured. "So, is your idea of a first date? A secret jazz club that probably requires a password to enter? I wanted somewhere we could talk without interruption, or scream for help." His smile was dangerous. That too. They ordered food, small plates that Nia barely tasted because she was too focused on the man across from her. True to their agreement, they traded questions. "Why law?" he asked. "Because I'm good at arguing and I like winning." "Your turn. What do you really do?" "I manage investments, acquisitions. Hostile takeovers, you might say." "That's impressively vague." "I'm an impressively private person, clearly." "Next question. The driver who called you boss. What was that about?" Min's finger traced the rim of his wine glass. "I own several businesses. They're protective of my privacy. What kind of businesses? That's two questions. I'm a lawyer. Loopholes are my specialty. He laughed, a real laugh, that transformed his face from dangerously beautiful to devastatingly so. Import/export, logistics, some real estate. In other words, deliberately vague business speak that tells me nothing. Exactly. The band shifted into something slower, more intimate. Min stood, extending his hand. Dance with me. It wasn't a question. Nia placed her hand in his, and he led her to the floor with a confidence that suggested he'd done this 1,000 times before. His hand settled on her waist, pulling her close enough that she could feel the heat of his body, smell his cologne, count the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. They moved together like they'd been doing this for years. His hand was firm on her lower back, guiding her through turns with effortless precision. When he pulled her closer, her body molded against his, and she felt the tension coiling through him. My turn for questions, he murmured against her ear. Why aren't you afraid of me? Should I be? Most people are. I'm not most people. His hand tightened on her waist. No, you're definitely not. They danced through 2 more songs, the space between them disappearing until they were barely moving, just swaying together in the low light. Nia's hand had somehow migrated to the back of his neck, her fingers tangling in his hair. Nia. His voice was rough. If you don't stop looking at me like that, I'm going to kiss you. Promises, promises. He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. I'm serious. Once I kiss you, everything changes. There's no going back. His hand came up to cup her jaw, thumb brushing across her lower lip. Last chance to run, he whispered. I don't run. He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was claiming, consuming, the kind of kiss that rewrote the rules of gravity. His hand fisted in her hair, angling her head for better access, while his other arm banded around her waist, pulling her flush against him. Nia made a sound she'd be embarrassed about later, her hands clutching at his shoulders as the world narrowed to just this, the taste of wine on his tongue, the scrape of his jaw against hers, the barely controlled power in the way he held her. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. Your place or mine? Nia managed. His smile was sin incarnate. Mine. It's closer. Min's apartment was in a building Nia recognized one of the most expensive residential towers in Gangnam, the kind with helicopter pads and private elevators. They barely made it inside before they were kissing again, stumbling through a massive foyer, hands exploring, clothes starting to come undone. Nia's dress zipper lowered with a smooth sound. Min's jacket hit the floor, his shirt buttons opening under her desperate fingers. Then his phone rang. Not a normal ring. A sharp, urgent alarm that made Min freeze. Ignore it, Nia breathed against his neck. He pulled back, his expression shuddering in a way that sent cold dread through her stomach. I can't. He pulled out his phone, read something, and every line of his body went rigid. What's wrong? You need to leave. The words were like ice water. What? Now, Nia. My driver will take you home. Are you seriously doing this again? She stepped back, anger replacing arousal. We were literally about to. I know. His jaw was tight, but something's come up. Business that can't wait. At midnight? Yes. What kind of business operates at? A knock at the door interrupted her. Min's entire demeanor changed, shifting from the man who'd kissed her like she was air into something else, something cold and commanding. Stay here, he ordered. He opened the door to reveal 3 men in dark suits. They actually bowed before the largest one spoke rapidly, in Korean. Nia caught a few words. Problem, territory, urgent, and one word that made her blood run cold. Weapons. Min responded in Korean, his voice carrying an authority that raised goosebumps on her arms. Then he turned back to her, and the man looking at her wasn't the one who'd held her on the dance floor. This was someone else entirely. Nia, go home. Forget tonight. Forget me. Like hell. This isn't a negotiation. Then it's a good thing I don't take orders. She grabbed her clutch, fury and hurt warring in her chest. But I'll leave. Because clearly, whatever you're involved in is more important than… She didn't finish. Couldn't. The hurt was too sharp. She pushed past him, past the suited men who watched her with expressions she couldn't read, and stabbed the elevator button with more force than necessary. Just before the doors closed, she heard one of the men speak in English, probably for her benefit. Boss, the shipment from Busan there's been a complication. The Jangpa are moving on our territory. Boss. The elevator doors closed on Min's face, on the truth she'd been too infatuated to see. She'd fallen for a criminal. Nia spent the next 3 days throwing herself into work, ignoring Min's calls and texts. Zara took one look at her and ordered soju and fried chicken. Wanna talk about it? Not even a little bit. Does it involve Mr. Tall, dark, and mysterious? It involves me being a complete idiot. Ah, so… Yes. Nia's phone buzzed. Another text from Min. Please, let me explain. She deleted it without responding. On day 4, Zara came into her office looking pale. Nia, you need to see this. She pulled up a news article on her tablet. The headline made Nia's stomach drop. Gang violence erupts in Itaewon. 3 dead in suspected territory dispute. There was a photo. Blurry, taken from a security camera, but unmistakable. Min, standing in an alley, surrounded by men in suits, and in his hand, a gun. Oh my God, Nia whispered. Zara's expression was grim. There's more. I did some digging, called in favors with some journalist friends. Nia, that man you've been seeing, his full name is Min Tae-sung, and he's not just involved with criminals. Don't say it. He runs the Myeongpa, one of the largest organized crime families in Seoul. Import/export, tri-weapons and drugs, logistics, money laundering. Heawistat, fronts for illegal operations. The room spun. He's a mafia boss, Nia, like an actual ruthless, people disappear around him mafia boss. Nia's phone buzzed again. I'm outside your building. Please, 5 minutes. She should have called the police, should have run, should have done anything except what she did. She went downstairs. Min was leaning against a black Mercedes, not the same one from their first meeting, but similar, expensive, armored. She realized now with horrible clarity he looked tired, dangerous, beautiful, in a way that made her heart ache even as her brain screamed warnings. You're a criminal, she said without preamble. Yes, a mafia boss. Yes. Were you ever going to tell me? No. His honesty was brutal. I was going to keep you separate from that world, keep you safe. By lying to me? By protecting you from the truth. He stepped closer. Nia, everything I told you was real. My feelings for you are real. But my world, it's not something you can be part of. It would destroy you. Shouldn't that be my choice? Not when it could get you killed. Is that a threat?
It's a fact.
His voice was rough. My enemies would use you against me. The things I've done. You're a lawyer. You believe in justice, in right and wrong. I live in the spaces between. I can't ask you to accept that. You're right, Nia said quietly. You can't. She saw the moment he understood, saw the flash of pain before his expression shuddered. I'm sorry, he said, for lying, for involving you, for… Don't, she held up a hand. Just don't. She turned to walk away. Nia. Against her better judgment, she looked back. If you ever need anything, if you're ever in trouble, call me. Please, that number will always work. She didn't answer. Just walked back into her building and didn't look back. It was over. Or so she thought. 2 weeks passed. Nia buried herself in work, finalizing the merger that had brought her to Seoul in the first place. She went to the gym, avoided places she might run into Min, pretended her heart wasn't broken. Then Richard Park called her into his office. Nia! Great news. The Kimtech deal? We need to negotiate some final terms with their silent partners. I need you at a meeting tonight. Silent partners? Investors who prefer to stay out of the public eye. Very normal in Korean business culture. The meeting's at a private club in Gangnam. Dress nice. Something felt off, but Nia couldn't put her finger on what. The address led to an upscale building with a discreet entrance. A hostess led her and Richard through a restaurant to a private room in the back. Our partners will be here shortly, Richard said, checking his Rolex. This is big, Nia. Career making big. Just follow my lead. The door opened, and Nia's world tilted sideways. Min walked in, flanked by two men in suits. He froze when he saw her, something like horror flickering across his face before it smoothed into professional neutrality. Mr. Park, he said in perfect English. Thank you for meeting with us. Richard stood, bowing slightly. Mr. Min, the pleasure is ours. This is Nia Abeni, our senior associate handling the merger. Min's eyes met hers. She saw 1,000 things in that glance: regret, warning, apology. Ms. Abeni and I have met, he said carefully. Richard's eyebrows rose. Oh? Well, that's convenient. They sat. Another man entered, older, distinguished, with silver hair and cold eyes. Richard introduced him as Mr. Choi, representative of the investment group. What followed was the most surreal negotiation of Nia's life. She had to sit across from Min, discussing percentages and liability clauses, while her heart hammered in her chest. He was professional, precise, his business acumen evident in every question he asked. This was the real Min. Powerful, controlled, brilliant, and completely off limits. The meeting lasted 2 hours. When it ended, Richard practically skipped out, thrilled with the terms they'd secured. Stay, Min said quietly as Nia moved to leave. Please. Richard was already gone. The other men had filed out. They were alone. You're involved in my deal, Nia said flatly. The merger I've been working on for 6 months. You're the silent partner. One of them. Yes. How long have you known? From the beginning. He had the grace to look ashamed. The night we met, it wasn't coincidence. I'd seen your photo in the deal documents, researched you. I knew you'd be at that gala. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. So this was all what? A game? No. He moved toward her, stopped when she stepped back. It started that way. I wanted to understand who I'd be working with. But then I met you. And you were... Nia, I've never felt this way about anyone. That was real. How am I supposed to believe anything you say? You're not. I've given you no reason to trust me. His voice was rough. But I'm asking anyway. This deal, it's legitimate. My money comes from legal ventures now. I'm trying to transition, go straight, build something clean, with blood money as the foundation. Yes, at least he didn't lie. I can't do this, Nia said. I can't work with you. I can't. A phone rang. Not Min's. One of the men who'd left earlier burst back through the door, his face pale. Boss, we have a problem. The warehouse on Pier 7, someone's leaked information to the Jangpa. They're moving in tonight. Min's expression hardened. How many? At least 20. They're armed. And boss, they have a hostage. Who? The man hesitated, glancing at Nia. Youngmai. Min went absolutely still. Then he was moving, issuing orders in rapid Korean, his entire demeanor shifting into something terrifying and efficient. Nia grabbed his arm. Who's Youngmai? He looked at her, and she saw genuine fear. My sister. I'm coming with you, Nia said. Absolutely not. Your sister's life is in danger. You need every advantage. I speak Korean, I'm trained in negotiation, and I'm not letting you... No. His voice was steel. These people don't negotiate, Nia. They kill. I won't risk you. It's not your choice. They stared at each other, wills clashing. Please, he said, and the word cost him. Stay here. I can't focus if I'm worried about keeping you safe. Then don't worry about me. Worry about getting your sister back. In the end, she won by the simple expedient of getting in his car and refusing to leave. They didn't have time to argue. The drive to the waterfront was tense and silent. Nia counted 3 other vehicles following them, SUVs full of Min's men, all armed. She was in the middle of something straight out of an action movie, except this was horrifyingly real. Tell me about Youngmai, she said, needing to break the silence. Min's hands tightened on the steering wheel. She's 23, pre-med student. She doesn't know about what I do. I've kept her separate from all of this. Like you tried to keep me separate. Yes. How did they get to her? I don't know yet. His jaw clenched. But I'm going to find out. They pulled up to a warehouse district along the Han River. Abandoned buildings loomed in the darkness, their broken windows like dead eyes. Min's phone buzzed with a location ping. Warehouse 7. One of his men reported from the back seat. Thermal imaging shows approximately 18 people inside. 2 hostages, Youngmai and one of our couriers. Min issued orders in Korean, his voice carrying absolute authority. Men deploy from the other vehicles, moving with military precision. He turned to Nia. You stay in the car. Doors locked. If anything goes wrong, you drive away and call this number. He pressed a card into her hand. Lawyer named Kim. He'll protect you. Min. He kissed her, hard, desperate, like it might be the last time. I love you, he said against her lips. I needed you to know that before. Don't you dare say goodbye. She grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. You go in there, you get your sister, and you come back to me. Understand? Something like hope flickered in his eyes. Yes, ma'am. Then he was gone, disappearing into the darkness with his men. Nia lasted exactly 3 minutes in the car before her lawyer instincts kicked in. Sitting helpless while people potentially died went against everything she believed in. She got out. The warehouse was massive, echoing with distant voices. She crept along the perimeter, staying in shadows, her heels abandoned in the car. Through a broken window, she could see the interior shipping containers, industrial lighting, and in the center, a young woman tied to a chair. Youngmai. She had Min's eyes. Around her stood men in dark clothing, weapons visible. And across from them, Min and his crew, outnumbered but projecting such lethal calm that the very air seemed to vibrate with tension. Nia couldn't hear the conversation, but she could see the negotiation failing in real time. The leader of the rival Gang A man, with a scar bisecting his face, raised a gun, pointing it at Youngmai's head. Min's response was immediate. He drew his own weapon with the speed of someone who'd done it 1,000 times, aiming at Scarface. Mexican standoff. Nia's mind raced. She'd negotiated billion-dollar deals, navigated hostile takeovers, talked down aggressive opposing counsel. Surely she could. A hand clamped over her mouth. She tried to scream, to fight, but her attacker was strong, dragging her backward into darkness. Her last thought before a cloth pressed against her face, chemical sweet, was, Min's going to be so pissed. Nia woke to pain, lancing through her head, and the smell of rust and seawater. She was in the warehouse, tied to a chair next to Youngmi, who looked at her with wide, terrified eyes. Who are you? The younger woman whispered in English. Nia? I'm a friend of your brother's. That's one word for it, a voice said. Scarface stepped into view, and Nia's stomach dropped. Up close, he was terrifying dead eyes, predatory smile, the gun in his hand held with casual familiarity. Ms. Abeni, he said in accented English. The lawyer, Min's new weakness. How fortunate. Across the warehouse, she could see Min. He'd gone absolutely still, his expression blank in a way that was somehow more terrifying than rage. "Let her go, Jang," he said, his voice deadly quiet. "This is between us." "No." Jang smiled. "This is about sending a message. You've been expanding into our territory, taking our business. Now, I take something of yours." He pressed the gun to Nia's temple. The cold metal against her skin should have terrified her. Instead, she felt oddly calm. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was the absolute certainty in Min's eyes that he wouldn't let her die. "You know what's funny?" Nia said, her voice steadier than she felt. "I'm a lawyer. I know exactly how many laws you're breaking right now. Kidnapping, assault, probably about 15 different weapons charges." Jang's smile faltered. "Shut up. No, seriously. Seoul's legal system is fascinating. Did you know kidnapping carries a minimum of 5 years? And if you discharge that weapon, add attempted murder, the prosecution rate in Korea is like 95%. You're statistically screwed." "I said shut up." "Why is... Why?
You kill us, Min's lawyers, and trust me, he has expensive lawyers will bury you in legal proceedings, your assets frozen, your operations exposed, your family prosecuted as accessories.
But her lawyer voice honed through years of hostile negotiations carried absolute conviction. Jang's gun hand wavered. Min moved. It happened so fast Nia barely processed it. One moment, standoff. The next, Min had closed the distance, disarmed Jang with brutal efficiency, and put the man on his knees with a gun to his head. The rival gang members raised their weapons, but Min's men were faster, creating a deadly tableau of crossed firing lines. "New negotiation," Min said, his voice carrying through the warehouse. "You leave. Now. And you never come near my family." His eyes found Nia's, "or anyone I care about again. Or I don't just kill you, Jang. I dismantle everything you've built. Your operations, your protection, your family name. I've been merciful until now. Don't make me stop." The threat wasn't empty. Nia could hear the truth in it, see it in the way Jang's men shifted nervously. "This isn't over," Jang spat. "Yes," Min said softly. "It is." He released the man, who stumbled back, motioning his crew to retreat. They left weapons drawn, backing toward the exits. The moment they were gone, Min was at Nia's side, cutting through her bonds with a knife that appeared from nowhere. "Are you hurt?" His hands ran over her arms, checking for injuries, his touch gentle despite the violence still thrumming through him. "I'm fine. Your sister is safe." One of his men was already freeing Youngmai, who immediately launched herself at Min, sobbing in Korean. He held her with one arm, the other still reaching for Nia. "You were supposed to stay in the car," he said. "I'm terrible at following orders." "I noticed." His thumb brushed her cheek. "You also just negotiated with an armed gangster using legal statutes. That was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Can it be both?" Despite everything, the guns, the danger, the insanity, he laughed. They regrouped at Min's apartment. Youngmai was checked by a private doctor, given something to help her sleep, and installed in a guest room with armed guards outside, which left Nia and Min alone in his living room, the adrenaline finally wearing off, leaving exhaustion and questions. "Your sister doesn't know," Nia said, "about what you do." "No. I've kept her clean. Separate. She thinks I run legitimate import businesses. Do you? Some of them are. Most of them were." He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handed her one. "I told you I'm trying to transition. Go legitimate. It's true. The merger with your company? That's my exit strategy. Clean money, legal operations, a way out. You can't just leave organized crime. They don't give you a retirement plan and a gold watch. No, they don't." He sat across from her, looking suddenly tired. "That's why tonight happened. The Jangpa see me pulling back as weakness. They're testing boundaries, trying to take territory. So what do? I make it clear that leaving doesn't mean I'm defenseless. His eyes met hers. And I protect the people I love. The word hung between them. Min, I meant what I said earlier. I love you, Nia. I know I have no right to. I know my world is toxic and dangerous and everything you stand against. But I can't change how I feel. Nia set down her glass with shaking hands. You lied to me about who you are, what you do. You put me in danger. I know. And despite all of that, despite knowing I should run as far from you as possible, she stood, moving to where he sat. I can't stop thinking about you. Can't stop wanting you. Can't stop. He pulled her down onto his lap, his hands spanning her waist. Can't stop what? Loving you back, you infuriating, dangerous, impossible man. He kissed her then, and it was different from before. Less desperation, more certainty. His hands tangled in her hair, angling her head for deeper access. She straddled his lap, her dress riding up, feeling the hard planes of his body beneath her. Nia, he groaned against her mouth. If we do this, if we're really doing this, you need to understand what it means. Tell me. It means bodyguards, secure locations, vetting everyone you meet. It means living with the knowledge that I've done terrible things. We'll probably have to do terrible things again to keep you safe. I know. It means falling in love with a monster. She pulled back, framing his face with her hands. You're not a monster. You're a man trying to be better. And I'm a woman dumb enough to believe you can be. That's not dumb. He searched for words. That's the kindest thing anyone's ever said to me. They made love slowly, tenderly, on his couch as Seoul's lights glittered through floor-to-ceiling windows. He undressed her like she was precious, mapping every inch of skin with hands and lips. She explored the scars on his body knife wound on his ribs, bullet graze on his shoulder, marks of a violent life, and loved him anyway. When they finally came together, it felt like coming home. Later, tangled in sheets in his massive bed, Nia's phone buzzed. Work, the merger. I have to disclose our relationship, she said. To my firm. It's a conflict of interest. Will they pull you from the deal? Probably. Richard will lose his mind, she smiled. Worth it. Min propped himself up on one elbow, studying her. You'd risk your career for this? For me? I'd risk a lot of things for you. Which is either love or insanity. Definitely both. Still with me? Good. Because we're not done yet. The real question is, can a ruthless mafia boss and a sharp-tongued lawyer actually make this work? Drop a comment with your prediction. And if you want to see what happens when her boss finds out, when his enemies come back, and when she meets his family, keep watching. The next morning, Nia woke to find Min's side of the bed empty. Panic flared had he disappeared again. Before she heard voices from the other room, she found him in the kitchen with Young Mai, who was eating breakfast and eyeing her brother suspiciously. So, the younger woman said in English when Nia appeared. You're the lawyer. That's me. And you're dating my brother. Also me. Young Mai looked between them, then sighed. Appa, you know Mom is going to lose her mind, right? First you refuse to date any of the nice Korean girls she introduces you to, and now you bring home an American lawyer? Nia's eyebrows rose. Your mom doesn't know about his business? She thinks he imports luxury goods. Young Mai's smile was wry, which, technically, isn't wrong. She just doesn't know the goods are sometimes illegal. Min shot his sister a warning look. What? I'm not stupid. I figured it out years ago. Young Mai turned to Nia. He thinks he's protecting me by keeping me in the dark. Really, he's just bad at hiding things. I am excellent at hiding things, Min protested. You have a gun safe in your bedroom closet, Appa. For protection. With 17 different weapons? That's not protection. That's an arsenal. Nia couldn't help it. She laughed. This was so absurdly domestic, arguing siblings over breakfast that it almost made her forget the previous night's kidnapping and gunfight. Young Mai grinned at her. I like you. You're either very brave or very crazy to date him. Both, Nia and Min said simultaneously. The integration into Min's life happened gradually, then all at once. She met his inner circle. Tae-jin, his second in command, a quiet man with sharp eyes who'd served with Min in the military. Jae-hoon, his tech expert, who ran cybersecurity for the organization. And Soo-min, his accountant, a terrifyingly competent woman who could probably launder money through a lemonade stand. So you're the one who's convinced boss to go legit, Soo-min said over coffee, studying Nia with calculating eyes. I'd like to think I'm a contributing factor, Nia replied, but Min makes his own decisions. True, but he's never made this particular decision before. Going straight, I mean, it's ambitious and dangerous. Extremely. There are people who won't like losing their piece of the pie. Nia had figured as much. What's your take? Can he pull it off? Soo-min's smile was sharp. If anyone can, it's him. Min doesn't fail. He just redistributes the definition of success. Meanwhile, Nia had her own reckoning to handle. She disclosed her relationship to her firm's ethics committee. As predicted, Richard Park exploded. You're sleeping with a client? Do you have any idea the liability? I'm aware, Nia cut in calmly. Which is why I'm recusing myself from the Kim Tech merger. Zara can take point. This is a career-ending move, Abeni. Then I'll find a new career. She walked out of his office with her head high and her heart racing. Zara found her in the bathroom 10 minutes later, staring at her reflection. You okay? I just torpedoed my career for a man who runs a criminal empire. Yeah, but is he good in bed? I'm serious. If you're throwing away a partnership track, he better be worth it. Nia thought about Min's hands, his smile, the way he looked at her like she was both his salvation and his damnation. He is, she said quietly. He really is. 2 weeks later, the firm accepted her resignation. She'd expected to feel panic. Instead, she felt free. Min found her on his apartment balcony that evening, watching Seoul's skyline. Any regrets? He asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Ask me again when I'm unemployed and can't pay my student loans. Don't even think about it. I'm not taking your money. Our money. If we're doing this, it's ours. She turned in his arms. Are we doing this? I want to. His thumb traced her lower lip. I want you in my life, in my home, in my bed. I want to wake up to you arguing about legal precedents and fall asleep to you, stealing the blankets. I want forever, Nia, if you'll have me, her breath caught. That sounds an awful lot like a proposal. Not yet. When I propose, you'll know. There will be witnesses and possibly excessive displays of wealth. How romantic. I try. They kissed as the sun set over Seoul, the city that had brought them together lighting up beneath them. Of course, it couldn't be that simple. 3 months into their relationship, as Min's legitimate businesses grew and his illegal ones contracted, the pushback began. It started with small things. Vandalism at one of his warehouses. A shipment, accidentally, lost. Regulatory inspections at suspiciously convenient times. Then it escalated. Nia was leaving a job interview she'd decided to pivot to contract law, something less soul-crushing than corporate mergers, when she noticed the car following her. Black sedan, tinted windows. Keeping exactly 3 cars back. She'd learned a lot in 3 months of dating men, including how to spot a tail. She called him. I'm being followed. Where are you? His voice went instantly sharp. She told him. Should I be worried? Yes. Stay on crowded streets. I'm sending Tae-jin. Min, please, Nia. Just this once. Don't argue with me. She didn't. Fear had a way of making her compliant. Tae-jin appeared within minutes, his car sliding up beside her. She got in, and they lost the tail through a series of turns that suggested he'd done this before. "What's going on?" she demanded. "Power struggle," T-Jin said grimly. "Boss is transitioning out. Some people don't like it." "The Jangpa?" "Them. Others. There's concern that going legitimate makes us vulnerable. Are we?" His smile was cold. "They're welcome to find out." That night, Min's apartment became a war room. His inner circle gathered, discussing security, strategy, potential threats. Nia listened, understanding perhaps 10% of the rapid-fire Korean, but reading the tension clearly. When everyone left, she confronted him. "You need to tell me everything. No more protecting me by keeping me ignorant." Min's jaw tightened. "Nia, I'm in this now, all the way in, so either you trust me with the truth, or we're done. Your choice." He stared at her for a long moment. Then he sat, pulling her onto his lap, and talked. He told her about his father, who'd run the Myongpa before him, about the car accident that killed his parents when he was 22, leaving him to raise Youngmai and run an empire, about the choices he'd made, some necessary, some brutal, all irreversible. He told her about the transition plan, the legitimate businesses that would replace illegal ones, the rivals who saw it as weakness, the inner circle members who questioned his judgment. "Some of them think you're a liability," he admitted. "A weakness they can exploit." "Am I?" "Yes." His arms tightened around her. "You're the only thing in this world I wouldn't sacrifice for power. That makes you dangerous. To me, to the organization, to yourself. Then maybe we should—" "No." He turned her to face him. "I've spent 15 years being invincible, untouchable, and I was miserable. You make me human again. I won't give that up. Won't give you up, even if it costs you everything. Especially then." They made love that night with a desperation that bordered on grief, both knowing a storm was coming and choosing each other anyway. The attack came 2 days later. Nia was at Min's office, a legitimate import company downtown that served as his public face when armed men burst through the doors. Not the Jangpa. Someone new. Russian, from their accents. "Where is Min?" the leader demanded. Gun trained on Nia. She raised her hands slowly. "Not here. Call him." "I don't think I will." The gun pressed against her forehead. "Call him." Nia's training kicked in. Stay calm. Assess the situation. Find leverage. "You know what's interesting?" she said conversationally. "This building has state-of-the-art security. Cameras everywhere. Silent alarms linked directly to the police. You've been recorded since the moment you walked in." The leader's eyes flickered to the ceiling cameras. "Aunt Min, he's not just going to come if you threaten me. He's going to come with an army. So you have a choice. Leave now, while you can still walk, or stay and see what happens when you threaten something he loves." She was bluffing. The security was good, but not that good, and she had no idea where Min actually was. But her voice carried absolute conviction. The men hesitated, then the windows exploded inward. Min's people came through in tactical formation, moving with precision that suggested special forces training. The Russians were disarmed and subdued within seconds. And then Min was there, pulling Nia into his arms, checking her for injuries with shaking hands. "You're okay? They didn't hurt you?" "I'm fine. I handled it. I saw." His laugh was slightly hysterical. "You negotiated with armed Russian mercenaries, using security features this building doesn't actually have. It worked, didn't it? You're insane. You love me anyway." "God help me. I do." In the aftermath, with the Russians handed over to authorities Min had on payroll, they finally had the conversation they'd been avoiding. "This won't stop," Nia said. "As long as you're connected to that world, even tangentially, we'll be targets." "I know. So what do we do?" Min took her hands. "I have a plan. It's risky, probably stupid. Definitely dangerous. My favorite kind. Tell me. He laid it out. A full exit from organized crime. Not gradual transition, complete severance. He'd sell his illegal operations to rivals, retaining only legitimate businesses. Use his connections to secure immunity from prosecution. Essentially, burn everything down and rebuild clean. I'll lose status, he said. Respect, power. Some of my people won't follow me into legitimacy. But I'll have you. A clean life, a future. And honestly, I'm tired of looking over my shoulder, wondering if today's the day someone puts a bullet in my back. Nia studied him. This man who'd built an empire on violence and fear, choosing to walk away for the chance at something normal. What do you need from me? She asked. Patience, faith, and maybe your legal expertise to navigate the bureaucratic nightmare this is going to create. I can do that. Yeah? Yeah. She kissed him softly. Let's burn it down and build something better. The next 6 months were chaos. Min orchestrated his exit with the same ruthless efficiency he'd built his empire with. Deals were made, territories transferred, debts settled. There were tense meetings, near-miss conflicts, moments when Nia genuinely thought they might not survive. But slowly, impossibly, it worked. The Myongpa fragmented, different lieutenants taking different pieces. Min retained 3 companies, import/export, real estate, and a tech firm, all completely legitimate. He faced prosecution for some past activities, but negotiated immunity in exchange for testimony against bigger players. Nia used her legal background to structure everything, ensuring it couldn't be undone, couldn't be traced back to haunt them later. And through it all, they stayed together. There were fights, epic ones. Nia screaming about his tendency to make decisions without consulting her, Min shouting about her reckless tendency to walk into danger. They broke things, said things they regretted, went to bed angry and woke up wrapped around each other anyway, because underneath the chaos was something solid, something real. Youngmai moved into Min's apartment for safety during the transition, which meant Nia got to experience living with both siblings. It was educational. Do you two ever stop arguing? Youngmai asked one morning, listening to Min and Nia debate the relative merits of different coffee brands. No, they said in unison. It's how we communicate, Nia added. It's foreplay, Min said, earning himself a thrown dish towel. Youngmai groaned. I'm going back to campus. You two are disgustingly in love. We know, they replied simultaneously, grinning at each other. The formal end came at a meeting in a 5-star hotel, all the major players witnessing the final transfer of power. Min stood at the head of the table, looking every inch the leader he'd been, and officially dissolved his role in organized crime. Gentlemen, he said in Korean, his voice carrying absolute authority. It's been an experience, but I'm done. My territories are divided as agreed. My debts are settled, and I'm officially retired. To do what? Jang asked, his scar pulling his smile into something ugly. Play businessman? Exactly that. You'll be back. Men like us don't just walk away. Min's smile was cold. Men like us don't usually have a reason to. I do. He looked at Nia, standing against the wall in a power suit that had cost less than the weapons these men probably carried, and his expression softened. I have everything I need. The meeting ended. No violence. No drama. Just closure. As they left the hotel, Nia slipped her hand into Min's. How do you feel? Lighter, he admitted, terrified. Free, like I just jumped off a cliff, and I'm not sure if I'm flying or falling. We'll figure it out together. Promise? I promise. 6 months later, the restaurant was perfect. Seoul's skyline glittered through floor-to-ceiling windows. Soft jazz played over invisible speakers, and the private room ensured they wouldn't be interrupted. Nia had thought it was a normal date night. She'd been wrong. She realized it when Min dropped to one knee, pulling out a ring that probably cost more than her first car.
I told you when I proposed you'd know,
he said, his voice rough with emotion. There'd be witnesses. The doors opened. Youngmai entered, along with Zara, T-Jin, and several other people important to both their lives. Nia's hands flew to her mouth. Nia Abeni, Min continued, you walked into my life thinking I was a driver, and you stayed when you learned I was a monster. You loved me through my worst, and believed in my best. You make me want to be better, do better, be the man you see when you look at me. Tears streamed down her face. You're stubborn, argumentative, reckless, and the smartest person I've ever met. You're also the only woman I've ever loved, the only one I'll ever love. So I'm asking, in front of everyone who matters to us, Nia, will you marry me? She didn't even let him finish. Yes, she sobbed, dropping to her knees to kiss him. Yes, yes. The ring slipped on perfectly. Of course it did. Men never did anything halfway. Their friends applauded, champagne appeared, and Zara was crying almost as hard as Nia. You know Mom is going to have opinions about the wedding, Youngmai warned later, hugging Nia. Like, many opinions. I can negotiate with your mom. You negotiated with Russian mercenaries and lived. Yeah, you'll probably be fine. Min pulled Nia onto the balcony as the party continued inside. Seoul stretched out beneath them, the city where they'd met, fought, fallen in love. Any regrets? He asked, echoing their conversation from months ago. Nia pretended to consider. Well, my career's in a different place than I planned. I'm engaged to a former crime boss. And I'm pretty sure your mother's going to hate me. She'll love you. You sound very confident. I am. Because you're impossible not to love. He kissed her forehead. And because you're the only person who's ever made me want to be worthy of being loved. You always were, you know, worthy. You just had to believe it. I'm starting to. They stood together as night fell over Seoul, two people who'd found each other in the most unlikely circumstances and chosen to build something real from the chaos. Hey, Min? That first night, when I thought you were just a driver? I'm glad I was wrong. His laugh rumbled through his chest. Me too, Nia. Me too. And there it is, the complete, chaotic, beautiful love story of a lawyer and a mafia boss who started with a lie and ended with forever. If you made it this far, you're the real MVP. Drop a comment telling me, would you have figured out he was a crime boss from the beginning? What was your favorite moment? And should I write their wedding? Let me know below. And don't forget to share this with someone who needs a good romance that'll make them laugh, gasp, and maybe question their life choices. Until next time, stay safe and maybe don't fall for mysterious drivers. Or do. I'm not your mother.